Hey everyone, Tactics here with another advanced dungeon route walkthrough for Season 4 of Dragonflight, where this time we're going to be taking a look at the Halls of Infusion. As a reminder, this is not going to be a pug-friendly route. I have another video going over those. This is more targeted at players in coordinated groups or pushing the 0.1% title, as some of the pulls or pieces of tech that we're going to be using in this route do either require a certain class or spec, or just generally require a lot of group coordination to actually pull off. I'll be sure to point out the individual pieces of tech we use as well as explain exactly how they work, just so that you can recreate it for yourself. Now, let's get into the key. And right off the start here, we're doing a very big pull. We're going to be running all the way down the stairs here with this group. So we're going to be running together. I'm going to pull these side packs. You see, everyone just keeps running. I didn't quite get the glaive throw off. I think that's what I intended to do, but it just didn't go off. I targeted the other group. And the goal here is we're not really going to be kicking much. We're just going to be LOSing these casts by continuously running down. You can see no one else is really hitting anything besides me. And we're not too worried about those casts because they can all be LOS and not a big deal. Now I'm going to come in here and group up this pull here and try and get as many things off as I can. I think one in the back, actually, I didn't LOS it. But other people did. But this one did go off. I think I probably should have just kicked it. That's what I should have done. But that's okay. It's not a huge deal. It's a pretty short debuff. I've got 2 stacks. Everyone else should only have 1. And then basically it's just a rotation of stops and kicks and silences and stuff like that. This actually doesn't need Avenger Team Hunter to do all the stops in this because they tend to sync up a fair bit. You see there, 1 stop got 2. So just with a regular stop rotation, you could get this. And because of Sanguine again, I'm going to be rotating around in a bit of a circle here to try and get as little healing as possible, while still getting, kicks and stops as much as we can. And going in a big circle here essentially, and then by the time I get around the circle, I'm actually clear to kind of go back again and circle again. Some of the geomancers jump out and die, which is a little bit useful actually, but now we're in a bit of a weird spot. But again, just kind of keep kiting. There's a decent amount of sanguine healing here. Obviously on a non-sanguine week, a lot of these pulls are just way easier because you're not going to get 60 million healing, but it wasn't actually a big deal, just because things kind of got one individual tick together, and that's not a huge deal in AoE. From here, it's basically double pull central, so we're going to be chaining this into the pull next to the engineering orb, and it's just the same thing, right? Like, you're just managing frontals, pointing them away. If you backstep, some of the frontals actually cancel right before the cast goes out. I don't know if you saw there, but initially you can backstep 1. We'll see. And then insta can that was also stopped by an AoE. But basically those spear flurries, if you just step out of the way of them, not only will they not bleed you, but if you step far enough away, they actually will just cancel the cast entirely. So there's some way to manage that, but keep them pointed away from your group. And then again, just rotating through stops and kicks and whatever needs to be done here to prevent as many of these demoralizing shouts and stuff from going off. So again, not the end of the world if a demoralizing shout goes off, but the expulse cast, you really want to make sure never actually is successful, especially on higher fortified keys. Moving through here, we have one more double pull, where again, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to stun to stop these casts. Yeah, and then I'm going to move in here, chain these guys together, and this is our double pull here. And again, rotating through any AoE stops we have now from there. And then next up, we're going to pull this pack here. And usually on a non-sanguine week, we'd probably just kill these 2 apparatuses because they have way less HP, right? You're going to see them die way faster, the apparatuses here. And we just take these on a boss. We'd ignore these. Because of sanguine, we just decided to kill them. But at this point, if it wasn't sanguine or something like that, you could just all ignore these mobs and run on the boss. And you have a little bit of extra funnel for the boss. Speaking of the boss itself, pretty straightforward now because the power overload debuffs now kind of grow slowly instead of instantly being giant. You don't need to do as much movement on this boss fight. And so what you're going to see here is basically the 2 debuffed players are just going to kind of stand like right here, just a little bit off the group towards the outside of the room. Everyone else is just, I mean, they could leave whenever, but this is going to go off and we're just going to run away. You can use things like rescues and life grips as needed. The first phase, it's such a small pool. You can just do a little bit of stepping. It's not a huge deal. It's the second phase when that's going to be much bigger that you probably want to try and make sure you have some sort of little bit of speed boost. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a stampeding roar every single time, right? That's not possible. But a lot of the, excuse me, a lot of these classes do have some sort of mobility tool that they can just save and use to outrun the big circle in P2. I can fast forward to that. Intermission, pretty straightforward. Get these guys grouped up as fast as you can and try and use AoE stuns or other CCs to prevent these purifying blast stacks from going out, because they can get pretty scary pretty quickly if you let too many go off. So be aware of that. And again, film on the boss. And now again, this is where the big overload circles are going to get pretty large here. So again, just stepping to the side slightly. They're actually going a bit further because of these circles. I don't think we wanted to go that far, but the circles just happened. So they did that. You can fast forward to the next one coming up here. I'm pretty sure they just go off to the side a little bit here. It's not even that big. Yeah, there's just a small step to the side. Doesn't need to be anything huge. And then they just, yeah, use a speed boost there. You saw the big dash from the dragon. Other people moved a little bit earlier. Pretty easy to get out of this without taking any damage. So not really a big deal. Just make sure you have your speed a bit planned. And once the boss starts getting low here, I think we're going to start bouncing to, yeah, we bounce to the exit here because the boss is towards 2% health. So just to make, a little minor movement optimization, that's going to go off. And we're just going to move towards the exit of the room and then kill the boss. So there's two routes here. And we actually really like going this way. The difference is that it's pretty hard to do. There's a new tech basically that you can group up all the frogs very easily. Remember in season 2, basically you'd run in here as a group and then you would kite around in a circle. There's actually an even easier way to do it. It requires either a monk, a mage, or a warlock in your group to do. So the mage could do it. And basically what he would do is he would alter here. I would pull these two guys here out and we'd fight them right here. Everyone, all of the other 4 people. The mage would alter, run in here, get to the door, trigger the door RP, and alter out of the room, backed out here. So these doors close when the door RP starts. But if everyone stays outside and only the mage triggers the RP and then alters out, the frogs just come in a line out here. And so if you have really good slows, for example, if you're playing a frost mage, you can just perma lock down these frogs. And it's super easy count with a triple range group. Super, super easy. And then this is way less running to go this way than going around the left way up here. And so it's very nice to do that. That being said, we aren't playing a Frost Mage because it's Sanguine Week. And so we're like, we don't have a lot of consistent slows. If you don't have great consistent slows, it's really tough to do the frogs like that still because there's just so many of them. So we just opt to go left instead. But that is a strategy you can use, especially, if you are running a Frost Mage that has so much consistent slows and can proc the RP. Going up here, we're going to do a bunch of skips with Mind Soothe and Sleepwalk. So we're going to Mind Soothe here. Make sure you center it on these Shock Troopers because there is a stealth guy here as well. And still make sure you're hugging the left everyone else. So boom. Same deal down here. These are all Dragonkin, but you want to do it in the middle of the Mind Soothe because there's also a stealth guy. And then on top of that, we're going to sleepwalk that Swoglet, and then we're going to be able to walk by without aggroing any of these extra Swoglets or the stealth guy. So very, very useful here. And then we can do a pretty easy Dragonfly, and I think there's a couple more stealth guys on the stairs here for the count that we need. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Only 4 Swoglets now instead of the 7 there would have been if we had pulled those guys. And again, like I said, we don't have a great amount of consistent slows. We've got the Ursuls there down, but outside of like Ursuls and Typhoon, that's really all the slows we have. I don't think we have much else in this comp right now. So Blast Wave slow, I guess. So we don't have a ton to deal with the Swoglets, and you're gonna actually see this become a problem because we are used to doing this dungeon with a Frost Mage in our group. For up to at least the Frog Boss, and potentially he could swap out at the Frog Boss if he wanted to play Fire from Frog Boss onwards. But yeah, the Frog Boss becomes interesting. But yeah, just this pull, again, kiting it out to avoid Sanguine. Then we do a double pull here with Bloodlust. This is where our Bloodlust timer is, so that's where we're sending it. We have individual kicks here assigned to all of these Shock Troopers just to make sure they don't get their cast off. And again, we are chaining this into the mini bosses. We have a couple kicks on the mini boss, but generally it's not a huge deal in Lust on a Tyrant week for some of these to go off, which is why we do this. And again, we put kicks on the Shock Troopers. You can put stops on them as well. It's not a huge deal. And then it gives you more kicks for the Flame Caller if you're not playing a spec that can just kind of eat it during Bloodlust, right? But I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of specs could probably just kind of eat that during Bloodlust. Not a huge deal. And then by the time we're halfway through Bloodlust or Bloodlust is done, it's just the mini bosses left, so it's not a huge deal here, and we can get all of our kicks on it from there. I think actually our kicks are all down right now, so I do have to eat a few more here, but I have CD covered still, so it's not a big deal. And then let's just get through these mini bosses pretty efficiently, and then you get the frog. And right off the bat here, I'm going to look far at the dragon. And my goal is to see where the trash pack is. And I want it to be padding into the dragon, as that lets us pull them onto the boss. So I'm looking. I think I see them there coming up the hill. And I'm like, okay, I'm going. So I start leaping over here. And basically, the packs aren't attached in any way. So if I just taunt the Earthbreaker here. And that'll pull the 2 patrol mobs. And the dragon doesn't pull. And so we now get to make the next pull after the boss a little easier. And instead we pull these onto the frog boss itself, and they're not super dangerous. Problem is Sanguine, and this is where things start getting weird. So I'm going to be saving, I think, at least a chains to try and deal with these guys in Sanguine. And like I said, we're used to doing this with the Frost Mage, so we kind of scuff the first few sets of frogs, mainly the first one, and then it kind of spirals from there. So stay grouped, try and get the frogs to all spawn in one area. And then the goal is to, of course, the first gulp on this boss always, for some reason, is fast. So they see the frogs just spawn and he's about to gulp. Every other gulp is slow, so you do need to kite a little bit. But initially here, it's fast. And so we don't have slows here. So we have the Typhoon, but 2 of them did miss. So now we're gonna have to deal with these 2 Swoglets here. I should have changed that, I think, just off the top, and only had 1 chains left. Would have been better. Also, yeah, maybe if we had Ursul's that one instead of Typhoon, it would have been better. But still, you know, hindsight is 2020. If you have a Frost Mage, also, we wouldn't have needed to do anything. So we're going to now, again, try and drop the frogs together and then kite across the room here. Now use chains to try and group everything up and keep the frogs away. We're going to have the Croak here. In terms of defensive abilities, the Croak is by far the scariest thing on this boss fight. That's what you're going to be rotating defensives on. We use Mage Barrier, I believe, on the first one, I think. Toxic Effluvia, also a party hit, but nowhere near as dangerous. So make sure Overpowering Croak is where you're defensiving, especially if you're Cloth, right? Like the Priest, I think probably Flash Fades most of the time because it is a physical damage, a channeled hit. So be aware of that. He's going to drop pretty low from those hits if he doesn't defensive. And now we're just kiting here. You see the Swoglets coming out. We did have to use, I think, both. We had like Typhoon and what's it called? Ursul's previously, right? So he does have Typhoon up now, but again, we're just a little light on the slows in this group, which is a bit problematic. And we started kind of halfway through the room. We have Gulp in 4 seconds, so I wonder if I probably can't use chains. Yeah, I changed the mobs off because they're close to death, the Ice Collar, and that does have a slight problem because we also Typhoon at the same time. Just need to get a bit better coordination on our stops or our slows on these mobs, and this is just kind of what happens when we're used to doing the boss fight a certain way with the Frost Mage, and then we just don't have that slow, so we kind of, you know, panic slightly. But I believe we have a death here, I think, and then we recover a little bit. Again, basically just trying to kite these swogs, and again, that means that the boss fight itself is going to be a bit longer than we wanted it to be, right? Try to use a darkness there to help with the Overpowering Croak. And we're just trying to kite, and again, staying together when you kite is super important, just because it groups all the swogs up together, which is really, really nice. We now only missed 1, had a couple deaths there, but we have battle reses going out. And I think at this point is where we've recovered, and then we can start doing the regular strategy. So again, group up, Overpowering Croak, run straight across the room here. We have Ursul's and we have Typhoon available, and so I assume one of those are going to get dropped in a second here. Knock up, there's the Gulp, and there's the Ursul's to keep everything slowed inside of it. Boom. And same deal. Now we just bounce back and forth. So we're all going to be together. The Croak's going to start in 10 seconds. So I can fast forward, drop all these frogs together, and then move as a group across the room so that the frogs kind of are kited in one direction. And that just makes things a little bit easier here. There's the Typhoon. There's a slow. Change them back in and stun them, and then they're all gulped. And that's how you'd want to do it every single time. So that's the goal. Then we're going to do a skip on this dragon. So a lot of specs can do this skip. Basically, this rock is fake. So if you have a leap, I'm going to leap right over it. It's not real. I believe mages can technically blink this. Priests can just fade and hug the left wall and walk through, and then they can life grip someone through it. Dragon can rescue someone over this. Someone can then Wurnstone to the dragon. Druid can wild charge through it as well. So there's a lot of different ways to get through this rock. The Warlock Gate, you can put a Warlock Gate down. So lots of different ways. I believe most group comps can get, you know, at least 3 or 4 other people through or something like that. So then because we already pulled the 2-pack, this is a little bit easier in terms of a pull because there's 1 less Ice Collar and 1 less Earth Guy. And we're just, you know, getting as many stops as we can. Usually on the Thunder Storm, this one. Trying to get as many of those, though it doesn't seem to hit too hard on Tyrant weeks. And again, any snare breaks you can use, it really, really helps to mitigate the damage on the Dragon's Deep Chill. Where do you cast it? You cast it somewhere here. Master Spell as well does work. I wonder where, yeah, we use Master Spell on this first one. And then we have snare breaks for other ones. So it's pretty nice there. Tanks, you can outrange that frontal if you're not. I'm in meta and firebrand right now, so I'm not worried about it. But if you did have these dragons alive, you don't have a major CD, it's only a 15-yard cone, so you can back up here. And again, I just failed to have this second frontal, not a big deal. And do a little kiting for Sanguine, of course. And then we're going up the side here. We Mind Soothe and we Cage this guy. You don't need Cage, or you need one of them. You only need one. So, you know, Mind Soothe or Cage or any other combat. You could also Hunter Trap or Polymorph. And then you have that, either the Hunter or the Mage go first to get aggro on that mob. And then they would Invis or Feign Death on the other side once everyone else is through. So a lot of CCs work there. Just know that guy will pull if there isn't a CC on him when you're doing that jump. And then we have probably the hardest healer boss in the dungeon here. Not a ton to really talk about it from a tank's perspective or even a DPS perspective. It's really just a raw throughput check on your healer, right? And so what you're going to see us do is we're going to just be kind of ripping CDs as we get them. So we have Priest CDs on pull, so he pops Vamp just to help initially. We don't have Bloodlust. A lot of roots would have Bloodlust, or you know, on a higher key level, you would have Bloodlust going into this boss, but we just don't right now. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. We are going to be rotating through with, you know, Scales is rotating through, Mage Barrier, right? We're not stacking those abilities, but we're just kind of consistently ripping them as we get them. You know, I'm going to Darkness, I think, after the next, you know, set of stuff. We have Scales going, Zephyr going, just consistently staggering these defensives just to make the healer's life a little bit easier. And again, he also like lets us know, like, hey, I'm doing big healing here for the next, like, you know, 20 seconds. Don't worry about it, right? And so we'll hold stuff for a bit. I think I Darkness at some point here. Potentially, who knows? Maybe it's the next one, but that the whole idea, basically, make your healer's life as easy as possible. Stagger your throughput cooldowns as best you can. And you see here too, again, we're aiming the Cyclones not at the very, very white ice blocks. Stay out of these circles. These circles do detonate staggeredly after the Hailstorm goes out. You can see they're not all going to insta-detonate. So don't move right away. See, right? If I had moved immediately, I would have been hit by this. This one's not even blown up yet. So keep in mind they don't insta-blow up. And then other than that, I mean, again, just, you know, chain your defensive slowly. You're going to see the Priest is going to come back to a CD. So he's going to Vamp again with the CDs. Before CDs come up, I believe I Darkness. I think it's here. Yeah, there's. So I dropped the Darkness on the group. Darkness is doing a little bit of help there and positioning against the thing, and then he's going to go in and Vamp after this. And so again, the big staggered fashion. Our Lust is not even going to be up, I think. So I think we hold our Lust for the last boss, but there's not much to do with this boss fight, right? It's not super complicated at all. It's just a really, really big healer throughput check. So do everything you can as a non-healer player to make that fight easier. From here, couple things you can do. So on Tyrant especially, I think we probably should just ran all the way down just to get, you know, to the end ASAP. On Fortified, you could probably argue, hey, this guy's a little scary, so maybe you kill this stuff and then chain down. But especially on Tyrant, it's really not that bad. And so we probably should just ran all the way down and done this all in one pull, even with Sanguine, because we have so much Proud Aim, but the dragon died first there, right? As you saw. I believe the Aqua Ragers, these 3 Aqua Ragers, I think, are what is tied to the mini-boss RP here. I can't remember exactly, because we're going to kill all the mobs, and the mini-boss RP still hasn't happened. So I'm pretty sure it's tied to the 3 Aqua Ragers in the middle there, or something like that. And then as soon as we kill those, we actually do get the Infuser. Infuser is straightforward. This hit, you basically either need to defensive every hit on higher keys, or range it. So you can see our mage took no damage there. He's busy standing at max range, and then whenever the bolts go out, just takes 1 step back before this goes off, and then he'll take no damage. I think he was in range there for that one. You can see him on the frames, but all you need to do is take 1 step back, and then that is going to mean you take no damage. So let's see, boom. Yeah, no damage on him and the Priest. The Evoker does need to, you know, use something there, or be out of range, obviously, because Evokers have short arms. But you can see all 3 of our range are just this far back, right? So that's it for that. The last boss here. Oh, that's too far. Pulling the last boss here. This boss does phase at 60%. We have Lust and CDs on pull, but because it's a 60% phase, we end up not pressing it on pull. We'll press it with a second set of CDs just because this phase would push insanely fast here. Infused Globules have 2 sets of spawns, so they spawn both 1 on each player, and then there's some random spawns as well. So by grouping up here, Having everyone here, and then I think I shift over as well just to make sure. It kind of clusters a lot of the spawns here and gives us the potential for open areas. I don't see this one coming through the boss. Be careful. There's sneaky ones like this right under the boss here. You can't even see it. It's going to proc my cheat. There's actually two, and that I believe procs my cheat. No, it actually didn't there. I had a defensive up. I had meta up. There's one that does proc my cheat though, so just be aware of those sneaky ones. Again, grouping up, putting all these globulars that we can together, and then we have a bunch. Then you have this whole open area. The boss also does a weird thing here where he doesn't do a tank buster, which is like very weird for forever. I think he does one soon, but he just didn't do one for the first 40% of the boss. Not sure why, but is what it is. Make sure you do taunt right at the end of this first cast here, just because the boss will sometimes melee other players because you're not in range. So make sure you do taunt the boss here, and then have some defensive going for this focused deluge, because it is kind of scary. I pop a fell dev and it's not a big deal, and then we get sent up, get a little bit of a milk there. We're of course just running through, nothing too complicated with the running. We call our kicks here, try and kick everything at the same time just to make sure they're a little bit synced and chains everything together. I think one guy's on his own there, but not a big deal. Do an individual stop with that. Pretty straightforward. Boss going to come out. We have 10 seconds till our 2 minutes are up. So we hold lust for, 10 seconds, and then we pop it. Again, I should be over here with them. Yeah, I do rotate. Could have been a little bit tighter, but not the end of the world there. In terms of defensive usage, it's the Tempest Furies, which happen about every 30 seconds. And so that's what you need to be aware of, and have something either personal or in our case, right, we've got personal, we have Mageberry, we have Zephyr, we have Scales, right? So we need something up for every single one of these Tempest Furies, because as you see, it's going to knock people pretty low even on a 15, right? So that's probably no defensive on the Druid there. So keep in mind, this is likely going to be the one-shot ability on higher keys, just because it's going to happen a lot more frequently now because of the phase being much longer, because you're not going to get as many intermission phases. So your defensive planning needs to be a bit better for those Tempests. But that is it for Halls of Infusion, guys. Hopefully you learned something, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like it. Of course, I've got to give a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for making content like this possible, and I will see everyone in the next video.